Good morning and God bless. I am excited to be here. I hope that when this reaches you, you are as blessed as can be in all the areas you could possibly be blessed in life, and that you feel whole in this. And I believe I titled this, let me look at the title I wrote down that I put, How to Stay Whole When Life Gets Heavy. And life has been heavy for me lately, and I want to have a talk around that. Life is not just heavy for me, life is heavy for all of us, and what that might mean. I apologize for being fidgety. I should have did a systems check before I clicked go live, but I was so excited to be here, I forgot some of the standard stuff. In any event, I've been really inspired by a lot of what the community has been providing around feedback lately relative to life. You know, sometimes I get so inundated with trying to provide content that is, from my perspective, relatively speaking, because I can only do what I think is working. But I try to provide valuable content to the extent that I think content can be valuable. And if you sort of categorize what the niche would be around what I believe and where I believe my content, which I really think is our content. And I don't say that in, tongue in cheek or as a way to try to influence you, because that is something I believe in deeply. I learned from a mentor a long time ago. It's not my team, it's our team. It's not my channel, it's our channel. I believe that deeply. Without the contributions from the community, this channel wouldn't exist. But of course, I feel very responsible and connected to the channel to deliver in a way that allows me to feel whole in different ways. But I've been really just, when I consider I pressed the wrong button here, I apologize. I don't even know what's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to happen, what the expectations are. Certainly you have general expectations. You want to measure, like, what is it doing? How is it doing? Where's the activity level? And those things are certainly, from a quantifiable perspective, important. Metrics are metrics for a reason. Data is data for a reason. But there's something qualifiable about things that often don't show up explicitly in numbers. And it's impact, right? There's a very cliche line around, they talk about small channels, and this is, I think it's very true. You might only have 100 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers. But if you walked into a room with 2,000 people, you'd feel very nervous. And we talked about the idea of public speaking recently. But qualifiably, I've been getting a lot of comments lately. We've been getting a lot of comments lately around the impact of life, the stress associated with life, the difficulties that we might be experiencing as people, and how some of the things we're saying to each other is helping us mitigate some of that stress. So long-winded here, but what I really wanted to talk about is the stress of life, what you might be going through. Because growth in life, it's very much like a drip, drip, drip versus a big magical event. I think oftentimes the blessings that might be waiting for you feel magnificent when they arrive in the way that you might want them to arrive. But it's that drip, 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 drip along the way that ultimately exposes this for you. But what I'm also inspired by is that sometimes your growth might be that where you've grown and where you've sort of established yourself today is being a center for the world around you to grow. And I came to that conclusion and realization with one of the comments that passed on the channel recently when I talked about reflection on Saturday. And the comment was around, been a stressful week. How many of us have had a stressful week? It's now Monday today. I reflect on Saturdays. I start my week on Sundays. It's just something I do. It's something I do. It's just the way I do it. But how many of us feel like we have a stressful week, which implies stressful days, which implies stressful moments, right? And what do they look like for us? In our community, the people that we are today, where you are in your life, I'm sure you go through stress on the regular. And how do you deal with that stress? why do you ask yourself, why am I continuing to deal with this stress? Not just why is this stress there? I think that's some of the logic to come to emotionally when you're having friction. Why is this happening to me? I can't answer that, that's for sure. I don't know why. There's a litany of reasons as to why. But then I think sometimes you come to the conclusion of, why do I need to keep tolerating this? Why do I need to keep going through this? What are my alternatives? Sometimes the alternative is just to turn around, run, and never come back. That's always an option. That's always an option. I read something to that effect, I think, in the religious experience of life from William James, that the idea of just letting go, period, and he said it in a little more different terms, but I want to paraphrase it to sum it up this way. Releasing everything, letting go and just forget it, not do it anymore. I'm not going to contribute nothing to life. I'm not going to expect life to contribute nothing to me. None of us want that. None of us want that. Left with that reality, nobody's going to choose to just give up entirely. Ironically, I think we get too comfortable in our lives and we give up in that way and inertia sets in. But I don't want to judge. I just want to be real about it gets stressful. Now, I had somebody reflect on currency, how they are contributing, 5 children, in-laws, a wife that is grinding and sort of the proverbial breadwinner. First and foremost, I apologize if, it's not appropriate to speak out loud about comments that are on the channel, but how moving as a man to hear another man express themselves emotionally that way. And I don't know that men get a lot of credit when they're able to expose themselves emotionally, when they pull those strings and they really get sort of just loose with, I'm just feeling stressed. And I'm feeling stressed because my wife is out here doing this. And then optically, what is your first instinct as a man? I'm sure, and I don't know, I think about immediately. What are the conversations that led this couple to come to this conclusion? You play this role, you play that role. How does that work? Do you ever have those conversations openly? That's something I wonder and I get curious about. Or are they implied? Do certain things happen where it's like, oh, wow, this thing happened for me, so I'm going to keep doing this. I need you to do that because if you don't do that, I can't do this. And if I can't do this, then we can't do this together. Or right? Or is it like a sit down where you're like, all right, we're going to plan this out. I'm going to take these steps. And while I'm taking these steps, you stay here. And it feels like that, right? Like you just stay here. Because one person is growing in one lane where it feels like the other person is unable to grow in that lane, but they're growing in other lanes. But naturally, those things conflict. Why do they conflict? Because one is watering one side, and it's not to suggest that the other aspects of the relationships aren't being watered. It's just that presence along the way is only allowable to a degree that it's allowable relative to where you got to be at. If I got to go and blow up my career, and it requires me, and my wife and I have lived this, right? We've lived in these things, and I'm going to get back to what she said to me just yesterday that ripped open my soul. But if I'm a focus here, you got to hold me while I'm focusing here. That creates stress. Why? Because what you're getting exposed to, I'm not getting exposed to. And naturally, as a standard human who's looking to contribute and provide currency in life, you're saying, well, where's my value? Well, your value's here. It sounds like that's easy, Jeff. It's obvious. That person is doing a lot of things. But inside in the interoperating sort of nature of the relationship, you know that there's some friction there. There's some stress there. Why? Because at some point, the person who's grinding in this area needs a release. The person who's grinding in this area needs a release. And how do they balance each other? Well, when you get home, I need to offload on you. I've been there, right? I walk in, boom, here, take everything. I need you to take it. And you're like, yo, but I just had a crazy long day. Do you have any idea what I've been through? And your significant other's like, do you have any idea what I've been through? That's stress. That's real life. That happens day to day all the time. How do we work through that? How do we understand that? How do we stay whole while it feels like we're being fractured and broken? How do we complete something if the things I feel like I need to complete for myself, I can't complete because I can't contribute in that way? I find other forms of currency. And I talk regularly about compensation when I have one-on-ones and group meetings, I had this conversation recently with folks around their value to the market. You got to understand your value to the market. And this is in business, and this is also in relationships. What do you bring to a relationship? What are you bringing? And then it doesn't stop when you're in the relationship. What are you consistently and persistently bringing into the relationship to allow it to continue to drip, 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 drip? Because anyone left to consider who they are, an adult feels and understands a childhood occurred and is that same child when they reach adulthood. I read something like that just a short time ago this morning. The point being, there's slow growth that all of a sudden is years in the making. How much of who you've become in that time has been recognized by someone besides you? I think that's a big thing to consider for ourselves. You're not just growing yourself for yourself. You're growing yourself to have an impact to everything around you. And oftentimes, the stress of trying to be that self is that it's not being acknowledged to the degree that you probably want to be acknowledged. Because the growth, the drip, 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 one, that person and those people who are around you are seeing it so intimately and constantly, they overlook it. Welcome to life. Welcome to the reality of close relationships. Welcome to the reality of constant exposure. Welcome to the reality of, well, that might be your expectation. That's your currency. That's how you contribute. But back to what I was talking about with folks the other day, I had a group session because there's some conflict in and around some business that has some people a little uncomfortable and considering what they should do. Do you understand what your current market value is? Do you understand how much stress you can absorb? Because the more stress you can absorb, the higher you're able to be compensated. That's just the reality. And in business, if you apply that to life as well, people leaders versus individual contributors. People leaders get a lot more compensation than an individual contributor. Why? People leaders oversee groups. Right now, you might be at home overseeing 5 children. Do you understand the complexity in that? Like at 44, going to be 45. That means much, much different math to me than it meant when I was 29. I was even 28, I think, when my daughter was born. I wasn't in that vibe and that flow. I wasn't present there. I was parenting, protecting, and providing, offering currency, really in the form of a check. I think I'll get into some of that as I continue this conversation. But what is your market value? What is the market offering? Ultimately, it came down to this. I asked everybody plain, what's the compensation you're looking for? And compensation isn't just a dollar amount. How am I being compensated in a relationship? I can tell you right now my non-negotiables when it comes to business. I will only do remote. Why? I got to pick up my kids every single day. I got to drop them off at school. I got to pick them up. I got to be there in situations that occurred to me today, which I'll get into shortly. Of course, there's a number. I got to have this number. But assuming you meet my number, because I wouldn't be talking to you if you couldn't meet my number, my compensation has to be that when my family calls, I leave. I clock out if I have to. I walk away from my desk if I have to. I start at a certain time. I end at a certain time. People talk about work-life balance, and I'm here to tell you that I put in maximum effort between 9 to 5. And there were times where I worked 18-hour days, 6 days a week because I was growing my career. I was trying to blow it up, right? That's required. I think you get lost along the way. I'll digress from that because it's just a reality. But in my current role, my number is good enough where I know where I'm at in the market. I'm above market value for where I'm at. My compensation dollar-wise is good. I don't need another dollar. If I never got another even, what do you call those things when you get it every year? Cost of living increase. If I never got another cost of living increase or even the bonus that's afforded to me every year, I'm good. My dollar amount is ideal. I don't need to even be promoted again in my life. Part of it is because I know what I'm doing with this channel and my expectations there. So all my focus for growth is there. That's a reality. But also, I'm very good. My point being, though, compensation. After 5 o'clock, I don't check emails. I do not. And it's not because I don't think the business it needs me. The business knows how to get me if it needs me. But I'm present in other places. Why? Life is very stressful. Before work, after work, and during work. You see what I'm saying? So now, what is the compensation you're looking for? Are you getting it at home? To what degree and in what regard? are you providing compensation that somebody else is looking for in a relationship? Right? My wife, she said to me, I had a moment, right? I was feeling very frustrated. I was feeling very stressed. And I feel like a lot of what I've been doing has been growing in a lot of ways, right? And so I was looking, my knowledge has been growing. I've been reading a lot of things that have been blowing my mind. I feel like my soul has been expanding. Like, I feel like my soul is just, they talk about discovering your soul and reaching into the depths and trying to elevate and ascend and illumination. I feel like I've gotten so in touch with my soul. Like, I want to talk about it, right? This is part of why I do the channel. But the person I want to talk to about it the most is my wife, because, we're the closest. That's my dog, right? And so I just had an energy drink. I have one at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we were going to the store. And I was hyped. Excuse me for 1 second. So, so I'm hyped, and she was actually feeling a little ill. I'm getting over what she had. So she had a headache. She said something to me about somebody and asked me to sort of analyze and dissect it. Why did she do that? I just started going. I was just reading this, and I was looking at this principle, and when you apply it to life, and when you factor these things in, and I'm talking, she's like, yo, Jeff, I didn't ask you for all that. And can you just, I'm not in the mood to even hear all that. And so I kind of was stunned, like, what do you mean? You asked me a question, I'm giving you an answer, and also I'm talking, I want to keep talking. I don't want to hear it right now. So I paused. I didn't say nothing. We went to the store in awkward silence. The whole time my mind is just, all these things are racing in my mind, right? I'm going through many different scenarios. I should just spaz out. Why do we think these things? I don't know. But I'm going through all the volatile, and it's because my ego is bruised. That's effectively what I had to come to the realization of. I'm just a little mad and sour because she doesn't want to hear me. When I came back and I lowered the emotion, I was grateful that she was able to tell me exactly how she feels, because I don't want to be talking to somebody who doesn't want to be listening to me anyway. But in the moment, you get heated. Emotions feel volatile. Stress is raising. This is real life. You never know what somebody who's real close to you is going to say, what they're going to go through, what they're experiencing, and how it's going to make you feel. Because all the while, you feel like you're contributing. I'm offering you value. Currency comes in many different forms. My presence is at an all-time high. While you're at work, I'm doing all these things. You see what I'm saying? Plus, I'm bringing home my money. Plus, I'm doing my own things to get deeper connections with self and with God, for the fact that I want to stay in deeper presence with you. And now you don't want to talk to me. That's how it feels in the moment. And then you calm down and you chill. But I did come to this conclusion. I said, you know what, when we get home, or the next opportunity I get, I'm going to have to let her know that I feel like I haven't been heard lately, because I feel like I haven't been heard. And if I feel like I haven't been heard and I want to be heard, the one person I want to be heard by is her. And I need to let her know that. So I think it was the next day. We were just sitting down on the weekends. I have 2 energy drinks. I have one in the morning around 9 o'clock, and I have one at 3. She has her coffee around that time. So we're sitting down, and I'm having my energy drink. Maybe the energy drink is a spark, right? Maybe that's a sign that I get a little bit too hyped. In any event, I looked at her and I said, yo, I just wanted to say something to you based on the conversation from yesterday. And I feel like when I reflect on the conversations we've been having recently, for like the last 5 years, I went there because my evolution, my journey has been since about 2021. Over the last 5 years, I feel like you've been doing most of the talking, and I've been doing most of the listening. And I'm not complaining about that. I want you to talk. I want to listen. But at this juncture, I did this to myself. I said, I feel like it's 98% you and 2% me. And I'm not even asking for those numbers to change. I'm just saying, when I speak my 2%, I expect to be heard. And in this talk, we were just talking, right? So my wife was like, stirring her coffee. She's looking at me. And she's like, I heard you. And I'm not saying you're not wrong. One, I tried to explain to you I didn't want to listen at that moment because I had a massive headache. It had nothing to do with you or what you were saying. I asked one simple question. I was looking for one simple answer, and you were going for like 7 minutes straight. You didn't even take a breath. I had a headache. I didn't feel like listening to you speak. 2, and this one hit me heavy, heavy, heavy. She said, I don't care if I'm doing 100% of the speaking. I listened to you without speaking for like 20 years. Oh, the pain in that. The pain in that. Because as she said that, I did a full rewind in my mind of like the 20 years prior to the last 5 years. And all I could say to myself and think to myself was, wow, how much stress was she going through that she never spoke about, that she couldn't speak about because I wasn't present? Because the compensation for me was non-existent in presence emotionally, from a father perspective, from a husband perspective. I was contributing in that I was growing, exploding. I shouldn't say exploding. I was blowing up my career to the best I could. But I was losing a lot of the things in the process. When you think about that, that hurts. That's a lot of why I made my pivot. Because what I've learned along the way in my journey is presence. And what is presence? What kind of currency and contribution and compensation is presence? It is that at this point of my life, if everything continued to go exactly as it is for me personally, because I'm my one person and I got to be me the whole time. I can only be me. That's all I can really contribute to from an actual performance perspective, right? I can try to inspire, motivate, and give directive. I shouldn't say directive. Influence my wife and my children, because that's all I focus on. But I can't force them to do nothing that they don't want to do, right? If my wife wants to stay where she's at with her career and doesn't want to grow, she doesn't want to move, she doesn't want to take a risk, she doesn't want to work out, and I'm not saying, what I'm just saying is she doesn't have to do nothing I say she has to do. Same thing with my children. I do what I can do. I be present. They can see what I do and ask, and I offer advice. They can see what I do and ignore it. It's not my concern. I can't be dealing with that. But my point is, I get the full maximum value out of my life. I promise you, and I say this humbly, with great humility, and also, a sense of gratitude and self-love, that I can't do any more than I'm already doing. I wake up as early as I can wake up. I go to bed as late as I can go. And in between those hours, I have this time that I have right now, right? It's 4:58. I've been on for 22 minutes and 47 seconds. I've been up now for 2 hours. I'm not saying it as a flex. I'm just saying that if I want to work on myself and not be bothered and have some selfish time, this is the only time I got. By 6:30, I got to get the dog walked. I got to get the bags packed. I got to get the kids awake. I got to make sure the clothes are out. I got to make sure the beds are made. I got to make sure the kids get dropped off. I got to take a shower. I got to log in. You understand what I'm saying? That's just the way it is. But I'm fully content. So when I talk to you, I try not to be hypocritical. I talk about being content. I'm all the way content. I'm doing everything I can from 3 to 6:30 for my mind, my body, my spirit, my soul. I'm present for God. I'm present for my soul. I'm present for my emotions. I'm present for my growth. I contribute in every lane so that by 6:30, I'm good. Then I'm present for my wife and my children. That's all I got. I don't have no other circle, no other friends, no other nothing. I just don't, because I give it all here. So what I want to drive is that if you feel like you're embodying that, that's the big thing, embodiment. I talk about that regularly on the channel. I embody everything I can. There's nothing more I can contribute. So in that way, I'm offering a platform for everything around me to grow in its own way. We got to be able to absorb that stress. We got to be able to remain silent while others need to speak. We got to be silent while others need to grow. We got to stay rooted and in the dark and isolated while others are being, and maybe even using your shoulders to stand on. That's a real thing with life. And that doesn't always look like, blowing up financially, blowing up in an influential way. And there's many ways we influence, right? In our worlds, we have influence, and that influence compensates us in some way. But sometimes it's just, I got to make the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Sometimes it's, I got a call the other afternoon at 1:45. My daughter had to be picked up. This was really powerful for me. 1:45 in the afternoon, I get a phone call and my kid's school flash on my screen. My phone is always on Do Not Disturb, but I have certain things that could break through. My wife, my daughter, my son, my boss, and the school. So when my phone rings, I get alerted because my phone doesn't ring outside of that. So it's the school. I don't want to get into detail because my daughter will be mad. I call her Gorge, right? My gorgeousness. She went through an incident. She wants to know if she could be picked up. She usually picked up by 2:15 anyway, but she wanted to be picked up a little bit early because she went through an experience. I called my wife. I said, yo, Gorge went through a situation. I'm going to pick her up now. This is the situation. When you get home, we'll discuss it, and then we'll figure out next steps. She said, no, there's nothing to discuss. Don't wait for me. Go to the school and handle it. So it wasn't just picking her up. There was an incident that occurred that needed to be addressed. My wife was like, go do that right now. Do what you do. Bet. I got it. I can't explain in words the emotion of how that made me feel. Because 5, 6, 7 years ago, at 1:45, I never would have got the phone call. You want to know why I would have been at 1:45 in the afternoon, 5, 6, 7 years ago? I'd have been in a bar somewhere, drinking from 11, 11:30, having a liquid lunch. Because I had advanced in my career where I had full autonomy. I was running a department. There was no real oversight. I managed everything. The budgets, the people, the process, the technology, the relationships, running. And when you're working like that, a lot of times you're really managing and serving the reputation of the business, and really you're an escalation point. So, and if I'm being frank and honest, I was abusing my authority. I never would have got the phone call. I would have been told about it when I got home. Probably would not even remembered it because I would have been halfway drunk, probably all the way drunk, really. But I would have never got the phone call because I wouldn't have been present enough to get the phone call. I wasn't the one providing that level of compensation. I wasn't the one providing that level of presence. I wasn't there to do that and perform my role. Now, we can argue and debate the significance of, am I better or worse? This is where I'm at right now. So depending on where you're at in life, the emotional weight, the emotional toll, how do you stand in there while you're also trying to take care of you? Because it's not insignificant, the impact on you, how you are feeling, how you are growing, how you are expanding, how you are contributing, how you are being valued. What I'm learning is that sometimes the value is not just in a, yo, I love you, you're the greatest, you're amazing. It's like, I'm going to call you when things get crazy. I need you to bring up the laundry. I need you to take out the garbage. I need you to make sure dinner is done. I need you to make sure my daughter on Friday had to get to her nail appointment. Why is that significant? On Fridays, usually what happened is, because my wife, we talked about presence. She does the picking up and the dropping off because she's home Friday. She couldn't do it Friday because she had some things going on and my daughter had to stay later at school for rehearsal. Can you bring Gorge to the nail shop? Of course. I'll bring her to the nail place. Pick her up at Starbucks. My son needed to go to Target. He wanted some Pokemon cards. They didn't have them there. Had to go to Best Buy. Found a box of Pokemon cards. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to go get some ice cream after that. All these things, you feel like they're inconsequential, but what you're offering is a pedestal for other people around you. And maybe you're there in your life right now. Maybe you're growing in ways that aren't really seen and are objectively phenomenal. Like if you step back, but they're not as visible as you might like. It's not to say it's okay. What I'm saying is you'll get light. You'll get light. God got you. The world around you got you. The illumination sometimes is not just to shine on you, it's the things around you that you offer light to. Right? And then every now and again, when the dishes are done and the laundry's brought upstairs and you are exhausted, I'm talking about exhausted. This happened to me just last night. I don't go to bed no later than 9 o'clock. I try to lay on a Shakti mat. It's like an acupuncture mat that I lay on. And I try to do that 15 minutes before I go to sleep because it helps put me in a deep, deep sleep. I take a shower. I go on my mat. I go to sleep. I pass out. My daughter comes in while I'm on my mat. She gives me a little kiss on the forehead. Love you, Dad. Goes in her room. As I'm falling asleep, my son, who's not a football fan, but he seems to like the idea of sports, he comes in and he's not a hugger. As I'm sleeping, he hugs me. Yo, the Seahawks are winning 9-0. I'm sleeping during the Super Bowl, right? I don't know what time my wife got up. I got a little tap kiss on the lips. This is life. This is payback. This is recognition that I wasn't getting because I wasn't present for, because I wasn't accomplishing the things that don't always get seen. And then I woke up to little texts. Please wake me up at 3:45. Don't forget to charge my jetpack. And then my daughter sent me a text. Yo, please bring my book bag upstairs. I don't know where it's at. I need it in my room by the time I get up, because there's certain days she gets up at 4:30 because she got to do her hair, whatever her routine is. And then there's certain days she gets up a little bit later because she doesn't have to do her hair, whatever. But she wanted her bag in her room. I went in my son's room. I made sure his phone was charged. I made sure his door was closed. All these little things that aren't highlight reel things that you don't necessarily get thanked for in ways that you might want to hear and see. You're being thanked in that they're growing around you. And the biggest thing too for me that I take away from all that in life and how we contribute and how we deal with stress is that they don't have to hide who they are around you. They can say exactly what they feel, how exactly they feel like saying it, when they feel like saying it. And there's no risk. There's no risk of judgment. There's no risk you're gonna run away. There's no risk it's gonna break something. It's just a realness of the moment in its full raw emotion that no one will be able to understand besides you and your little crew. That's presence. That's fulfillment for me. That's life. That's what occurs. And along the way, even though they may not see it and you don't even realize it all the way, you look back a few years and you're like, yo, look at all that's happened. Because of me, with me, through me, for me, even as it's not me. But of course, if you give yourself a brief reflection over a short stretch of time, I assure you there's been some growth. There's been some empowerment. There's been some compensation. There's been some expansion. There's been some contribution to yourself. And all of that makes life worth it. I think in a way that is appropriate for this channel, appropriate for ourselves, appropriate for God. And it's what inspires me to keep coming back here. So I thank you. I won't go through the do you cycle. I just wanted to have an honest talk today. Sometimes I wonder, what are you expecting from this channel? I don't think we're at that juncture yet. I don't think we've expanded enough yet to have a conversation like that. I would love to have a Q&A with all of you at some juncture to understand what you're thinking, how you're thinking, what you're doing, how you're doing it, how it could contribute to other people. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And individually, our environments are so different. And even something as simple as 5 kids, 2 kids, East Coast, West Coast, suburbs, city. There's so many different, maybe a different country. All those things have an impact on how you can and how you should contribute and how you should be compensated. But I certainly want to ensure that whatever you get from here is valuable. In any event, do you